Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to commence proceedings for the EBII Africa Investments Risk and Compliance Summit 2021. And who better to provide the welcome address than the CEO of Ebii Group themselves. Please give a warm welcome to the stage to Adjoa Adjei-Twum.
Good morning. I would like to thank God Almighty for making this annual summit a reality. His Excellency, President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, President of the Republic of Ghana and Commander-in-Chief of the Ghana Armed Forces. You're welcome. Thank you. And our key speakers, Her Excellency, Dr. Amani Abu Zaid, the African Union Commissioner in charge of Infrastructure and Energy, Right Honorable Lord Paul Boateng, former UK Cabinet Minister and High Commissioner to South Africa, Deputy Governor Mrs. Elsie Ado Avazi of the Bank of Ghana, Mr. Ebenezer Onyegu, Group Managing Director and CEO of Zenith Bank PLC, along with Mr. Akin Ogunranti, CEO of Zenith Bank Ghana Limited. Professor Nari Woods, CBE, the Dean of the Blavatnik School of Government, University of Oxford. Dr. Jonathan Reynolds, Deputy Dean, Saïd Business School, University of Oxford. Various government ministers in the audience, distinguished speakers, various CEOs from the different industries, both on our panels and our audience. Ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is my pleasure and privilege to welcome all of you to this unique gathering, the EBII Annual Africa Investments Risk and Compliance Summit, hosted by the Emerging Business, Intelligence and Innovations Group. The theme of the conference is Financial Crime Compliance and ESG, the future of African investment. We bring together key representatives from government, policymakers, financial sector standard setting bodies, the banking sector, multilateral organizations, the investing community, and thought leaders. So financial crime is generally defined as any activity that involves fraudulent or dishonest behavior for the purposes of personal financial gain. Markets around the world operate on the understanding that trust is fundamental to functioning market relationships. The financial crime is an activity that cripples economies and stunts market growth and access. Fraud, tax evasion, embezzlement, and forgery are just examples of some of these crippling activities that financial institutions and their stakeholders battle to contain. To ensure the sanctity of markets, firms and government understand the need to collaborate to make sure existing systems effectively control and mitigate financial crime risk. As the level of global connectivity continues to increase, it presents greater exposure to financial crime and instability in the financial sector. It is the biggest single cause of bank failure and distress in the global banking system. In Africa specifically, markets are deemed to be particularly vulnerable to external manipulation due to the underdeveloped monitoring systems. According to leading financial experts, the African economy is currently among the most affected by financial crime in comparison to those of any other continent. There has therefore never been a more important time to facilitate stakeholders' understanding of this issue and review existing systems to ensure that the areas most open to abuse are addressed, especially in this AFCFTA era and as Africa builds back its economies after COVID. If the African continent can attract the right level of investment into its thriving markets, the continent will have the power to lift itself from financial dependency. Our second agenda item explores how companies and other stakeholders are embedding the environmental, social, and governance standards into their operational activities and their investment agenda. Over time, banks and asset managers have built thematic funds, green products, sustainable investment opportunities, so private equity, impact investment, venture capital funding, for clients reflecting the evidence trend. In Africa, despite a report from the United Nations that predicts that the African continent will be one of the most severely impacted regions in the world by climate change, we see relatively low adoption of green initiatives so far. To date, efforts around sustainability in Africa have been mostly focused in South Africa, but there is evidence that actions are becoming more broad-based as stakeholders such as governments, agencies, and financial institutions, among others, are becoming progressively conscious of the ESG agenda. There is evidence of interest in raising green bonds, which are funds raised to support sustainable projects, as well as actions like incorporation of ESG activity, monitoring and reporting as part of companies' operational activities. Developmental banks like the AFDB have developed a green bond program to facilitate the financing of eligible climate change projects on the continent. This year, we have already seen market leaders like the Absa Group and the EcoBank Group also issue green bonds to support sustainable projects across the continent. And the trend continues with more institutions developing green financing products as part of their sustainability agenda. Ghana is one of the countries that have taken a strategic approach to the sustainable finance agenda. The banking sector in Ghana is collaborating with the Bank of Ghana and the Ghana Association of Bankers and have developed a customized approach on sustainable banking for the Ghanaian banking sector. Ghana has also announced plans to raise up to $2 billion to support sustainable developmental projects. We are therefore excited. We have His Excellency, the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, along with key stakeholders from the Ghana banking sector. This summit is a global platform for African leaders and experts to have a coordinated approach in providing solutions to the investment risk associated with the African continent, and in so doing, purposefully change the negative narratives around investment risk in Africa. The summit is also an opportunity for the West to access African expertise and gain clarity on the African market. I commend the AFCFTA for their initiative towards standardization of trading rules within the free trade area so that participating individuals, firms, and businesses are aware of the relevant requirements. The Emerging Business Innovations Group is a risk and compliance management consultancy firm headquartered here in Oxford and is supported by the Oxford University Innovation. Our mission as a company is to unlock Africa's investment value by helping market participants understand the compliance risk and mitigations associated with their investment proposition. We do this through training, and we also have a program that we've launched this year with the University of Oxford, called the Africa Series Executive Programs, and that is to support the investment community here, gain a better understanding of the Africa market. We are glad to be once again hosting this year's event at the University of Oxford, which has supported our company since inception and remains a valued partner of the EBI Group. We are grateful to our premier sponsors, Zenith Bank Ghana Limited, our strategic partners, Oxford Africa Business Alliance, Brand South Africa, our partners, Ghana Investment Promotion Center, Oxford Business Group, the event sponsors, Standard Chartered Bank, Ghana, and Ghana International Bank. Our panel sponsors, Confident Advisory. Our media sponsors, IC Publications, Daily Trust, and Access Media. I thank all these great sponsors for the tremendous support they have provided to host this conference. I want to especially thank the Oxford University Innovation for helping birth and incubate the EBII Group. I want to also thank my colleagues at the EBI Group for their support for putting this together. Beyond this conference, EBI Group is launching a think tank, which will consist of leading CEOs on the African continent to establish and address these issues. We believe that we have a moral responsibility to support the economic recovery of our continent at this period of great need, which we all need hands on deck. There is a lot more we're working on, such as the Africa Compliance Hub, and of course, the EBII Oxford University Partnership Africa Series Executive Program. Once again, I'd like to specifically thank the President, His Excellency, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, and all our stakeholders for being a memorable part of this annual conference. We look forward to an amazing event. Thank you all, and God bless you all. Thank you. Thank you. I would like to welcome Professor Ngaire Woods on stage. Thank you so much. That's the Dean of the Blavatnik School of Government, University of Oxford. Thank you.
Well, good morning and a very warm welcome to the University of Oxford and to Oxford itself. It's wonderful to see you all here. One of the things that makes me particularly proud to work in the University of Oxford is the fact that the university has for some 900 years attracted truly outstanding, brilliant students. And one of those is sitting right here on stage, President Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who we're very proud to have attracted. I'm very proud that Oxford attracted a talent like the president to study here for a period in his formative years, as several other brilliant leaders of the continent have done. I would just like to say a couple of words. This meeting that's brought you all together is about the fight against financial crime. And I'm Dean of the Blavatnik School of Government at the university. We're honored to have hosted you, Mr. President, at the school. In the fight against financial crime, there are three parts of that fight that come directly to the heart of government. And it's those three elements that I just wanted to say a quick word about, to say, as a school of government, how much we want to both learn from Ghana and from other countries, as well as share the experience of other countries with Ghana, because these are the three things that governments across the world really need to focus on. The first is obviously the leadership and how you build trust and integrity and take the fight against corruption and financial crime. At the Blavatnik School, Professor Christopher Stone is building the Chandler sessions, bringing together the world's most effective and determined leaders fighting corruption and financial crime, to bring them together regularly in Oxford over 3 years so that they can really be learning from each other, backed by research, backed by support from great academics across the university to take forward the fight against corruption. That's only ever going to be possible when you have a leader, a president, who has made this a priority, as President Nana has done. The second key element is a public service, that's to say public sector leaders, both regulators and civil servants, who can lead that fight in an innovative way. And there, our focus is first on how to help governments use cyber and digital in that fight. We've built our Digital Pathways project looking working with 16 different countries to help them build those digital skills. Now we're focused on the cybersecurity element with the former head of Britain's National Cybersecurity Centre at the school, building a centre that can help governments across the world learn from each other on the cyber and digital elements. But equally, it's about innovations, even in the face of the COVID tragedy that's unfolding around us. Our RISE team are actually in Ghana and have been over the last 6 months, really working on a pilot to see how we can remedy the huge gap in education that this generation of young people are suffering because of the last 18 months of fighting COVID. And some of the lessons of that are not just lessons for Ghana, but lessons for countries across the continent and in this country as well, where a whole generation of school kids are going to need remedial action. And those remedial actions need to be focused on us teaching teachers how to remedy the gap, and that's what we're doing on that. And thirdly, it's about public sector reform and the work that Martin Williams and others are doing at the school, which has focused on Ghana for the last decade, looking at some of the innovations that the Ghanaian public service have undertaken and the positive effects of those, and helping other countries learn from those lessons, as well as channeling some of those lessons back. So leadership in the fight against corruption and crime, a public service that's able to respond to that need using the best tools possible. And finally, of course, the international cooperation required to make this possible. President Nana is, of course, chair of ECOWAS at the moment, and the continent of Africa has so much at the moment to teach the rest of the world about regional cooperation. And it delights me to be able to say that, looking at the last 2 decades, not just ECOWAS, but the work that the AU have done, the work that the African CDC have done during this period of COVID, the work that the UN Economic Commission for Africa has done under Vera Songwe, leading a charge to ensure that the world gets vaccinated faster. It's clear to us at the Blavatnik School and across Oxford that international cooperation needs rescuing at the moment, rescuing from meager ambitions and from meager political willingness to lead the charge. Some of us are sitting on the G20's various task groups. It's clear to us that human beings reached the moon by saying we're going to reach the moon, even before we had the technology to reach the moon. Humans didn't sit around and say, let's see if we can get quarter of the way there. When it comes to COVID vaccines, it's just not good enough for the G7 and G20 to say, let's get quarter of the way there. That's not how you reach the moon. What we need is a world that's prepared to say we will vaccinate the whole world, starting, as Professor Andrew Pollard, who we're honored to have with us here today, said this morning, starting with those most at risk. It's possible, it can be done in a matter of months. That kind of international cooperation is greatly supported when outstanding international leaders come together, get to know each other from different continents, work together, trust each other, and take forward that cooperation. President Nana, I will stop there, but just to say, we're extremely honored to have you speak to us this morning. It's a delight to welcome you back to Oxford University. Thank you all, and have a great conference.
Dean, thank you very much. Our next speaker is the Deputy Dean of the Saïd Business School here at the University of Oxford. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Dr. Jonathan Reynolds.
Well, good morning, Your Excellency. Good morning, distinguished guests. And like Dean Woods, welcome back to Oxford. I had the privilege of introducing you in 2018 when you joined us at the Saïd Business School to give a keynote address. and it's an enormous pleasure to be able to do the same again, even if we find ourselves in somewhat different circumstances and a rather different setting from that meeting. Now, 2018 was also the year in which our host, Adjoa Adjei-Twum, was in Oxford reading for her diploma in financial strategy at the Saïd Business School. So let me take the chance to congratulate her, both for that achievement, but also what she has achieved in the years since then, and for being such a wonderful ambassador for Ghana, for Africa, as well as for Oxford. We're thrilled to be working with EBII on the Africa Series Executive Program, and I believe the cohort starting next January is the plan. Now, world-class universities and business schools like our own claim to train the next generation of business leaders. And I want to paint a slightly broader picture of the way in which Oxford is contributing to this goal. Our 28-year-old MBAs are likely to assume positions of considerable power over the next 25 years. So we have to ask, where will we need the next generation of business leaders? Now, while business schools have no shortage of applicants from North America, India, and China, other regions are grossly underrepresented. Africa currently accounts for 6% of global GDP and 16% of global population. And given current projections, the US, Europe, China, Japan will all shrink and slow. Africa's population projected to double by 2050, as we know. But the continent's needs for businesses to serve this growing population and job creation to employ these people will be enormous. As a business school within the wider university, we made a pledge back in 2014 to invest in Africa and support the next generation of African scholars and African leaders under our former Dean, Peter Tofano, and that goal continues. As a school, we recognize the disconnect, especially around Africa, and we were determined to craft a class to better recognize the future of leadership, and I think Adjoa is a great example of that. I think we understood very well the impact that young people could have in driving opportunities in Africa, and we sought to be an advocate for companies both in Africa and elsewhere to recognize the value in investing in job-creating industries in the region. And our aim has been both to support young, inspirational Africans looking to leave their mark on the continent, but also, perhaps more importantly, to provide opportunities for young Africans to teach us about doing business in the enormous diversity represented in 54 countries across the continent. We've done this in 3 ways. As a first step, as I say, back in 2014, we announced we would seek to have 10% of our MBA class drawn from Africa. It's fair to say this announcement at the time was met with skepticism from other business schools. Top MBA programs rarely had more than 2% representation from the continent. At the time we made the announcement, we also had 2% and no Black African students. Within a year, we'd achieved our ambition, and since then we've had more than 10% of our class drawn from a diverse set of countries across the continent, including Ghana. So in 2019, we had 46 Africans out of a class of 330 students drawn from 64 countries. And by contrast, the Harvard Business School, similar class, had only 19 Africans in residence. Now, as a community, we're also investing in talented African students to provide them with the means and the opportunities to choose to study at Oxford Saïd and in Oxford more generally. We've raised a number of scholarships for African students, including the NE Oxford Africa Scholarship and the Foundation Scholarship with Adara. But simply getting a more diverse class with more African participants would be a hollow victory, it seems to me. We knew that, secondly, we'd need to ensure that whilst the content of the program would also better reflect the continent. So whilst our aim is to be part of positive change in the region by cultivating talented African students, we also want to educate the whole of our student body about Africa's intellectual wealth and economic potential. The diversity of our students across Oxford, and not just in the business school, I think strengthens the classroom discussions where everyone is a minority, and that's a key factor in the success of our teaching programs. We've also embedded Africa-focused activities into our curriculum, our co-curriculum, case studies, Africa business electives, but also hosting African thought leaders to share their insights with our students and alumni. Most recently, we welcomed an executive in residence, Aruna Ote, Vice President of the African Development Bank, to spend time with us. Finally, we sought to create new ways of raising awareness of the intellectual wealth and economic potential of the region. We've created the Africa Business Alliance, which puts on the best Africa conference by any business school worldwide, the Africa Business Forum. We've partnered with the Department of African Studies to host a large number of high-profile African speakers, and we've actively encouraged our faculty to undertake research projects focused on Africa, including my colleague Abrad Chowdhury's work on global climate change and adaptation planning in Ghana. We want investors and business leaders to share our view of Africa, and we believe that driving research and engagement on the continent within a global market will serve to stimulate, sustain, and grow investments and entrepreneurship. A classic example of this in Ghana is another business school alumnus, Patrick Beattie, who with two African colleagues recently raised $1.5 million in seed funding for their medical testing startup. Your Excellency, we know that you strongly share our commitment to education and to entrepreneurship. And as well as being a student here, you have, of course, been a teacher yourself. You've been urging Ghana's universities to find more innovative and effective ways to link up with industry and the corporate world. And in your appeal to expatriate Ghanaians to give a year back to their country, we see the flourishing of that next generation of business leaders in Ghana. These are bold and exciting initiatives. So let me say again, welcome back to Oxford, Your Excellency. You're always welcome, and we'll look forward to hearing your inspiring contribution this morning. Thank you.
Dr. Reynolds, thank you very much indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest of honor, His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana and Commander-in-Chief of the Ghana Armed Forces, is about to take the podium. But just ahead of that, can I ask please for everyone to be upstanding as we play the national anthem of the Republic of Ghana. Your Excellency.
Ghana's Minister for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, Ghana's Minister for Education, High Commissioner of Ghana to the United Kingdom, and members of the Ghanaian delegation, the AU Commissioner in charge of Infrastructure and Energy, Managing Director of Zenith Bank, the CEO of Ghana's Investment Promotion Center, Dean of the Blavatnik School of Government, Deputy Dean of the Saïd Business School, Ceo of Ebii Group. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure to be back in Oxford, arguably the greatest center of learning in the world. I thank the conveners and organizers of the 2021 EBII Africa Investments Risk and Compliance Summit for the invitation to give this address. It is appropriate that a speech on financial crime compliance and ECSG, the future of African investment, should take place in these hallowed premises of Oxford. which have provided the stage for many a thought-provoking speech. Hopefully, this one will follow in this tradition. We are all agreed that for Africa to be able to transform herself and become the epitome of economic empowerment and self-reliance, she needs to have the wherewithal to be able to protect and optimize the resources at her disposal, hence the need to build robust financial compliance systems and ensure strict enforcement of these systems. The reason for this is that financial crime has over the past 30 years become a major concern for governments around the globe, as it represents a significant threat to the development and stability of the economies of countries around the world. I'm happy that a theme of this nature, which is a regular feature of deliberations for investors in Europe, America, and Asia, should have Africa as its focus. I'm saying so because Africa, which since ancient times has been defined by outsiders in the oft-cited statement, Semper aliquid novi Africam ad fere, is the continent that always provides something new, something strange to surprise or excite the rest of the world, or the place for adventure, or the place to be exploited. It is the place where the normal rules that guide behavior elsewhere can be and are suspended. Once it is the continent of Africa, things must necessarily be somewhat different. From as far back as we can think, it would seem that the world has always seen and dealt with Africa in a manner that is different from how other parts of the world are regarded and treated. The rules that have been drawn up to guide the rest of the world in trading, investment, ethics, environment, governance, and which are accepted as part of normal convention, are thrown out or changed when the area of operation moves from Oxford to Cape Coast. If the African continent were not seen as a place where regular rules can be and are regularly flouted, I dare say we would not be gathered here today to grapple with the subject of this conference. Top of the problem, of course, is that there's so little trade between African countries and so little intra-investment among African nations. And thus, when we talk about investment in Africa, the reference is instinctively to non-Africans. And until about a decade ago, when China made the significant entry into Africa, investment in our continent was limited to Western companies and countries. It is not surprising, therefore, that the Western countries carried into the investment arena the same attitude they had towards African countries as their former colonies. The emergence of the African Continental Free Trade Area, the AFCFTA, in which trading began on 1st January, and whose secretariat Ghana is privileged to host, represents a historic opportunity for Africa to repudiate these attitudes and strengthen immeasurably intra-African trade as a powerful avenue for developing Africa's vast economic and material potential. It is important to state clearly that we do not ask for Africa to be treated as a special, fragile, to be handled with care entity. I'm not mounting a pulpit to preach or ask that doing business with or in Africa should be along biblical, Quranic, or other such rules. Throughout history, when new markets emerge, there have always been buccaneers who have taken chances and have made fortunes. No one begrudges them. Often the rules and regulations follow the new frontier, but it's generally accepted that the carbo attitudes must give way to legal, settled, and predictable rules that would guide all behavior and transactions. I believe it is fair to say that we have been, quote, emerging, unquote, for long enough for us to be treated with the same rules that apply in the so-called old markets. Recent experience has shown that financial crises and scandals do not happen only in emerging markets. Need I remind all of us that the British merchant bank, Barings Banks, was founded in 1762 and at the time of its spectacular collapse in 1995, was rated amongst the largest and most stable banks in the world. Then there was the heart-stopping and even more spectacular collapse of Lehman Brothers in 2008, which brought down with it almost the entire financial setup of the world. It was certainly not an emerging institution, having been around since 1850 and controlling far more money and wielding far more power than the Republic of Ghana. I do not want to belabor the point. When rules are flouted, the consequences are dire, even for the most established of institutions. The lesson is clear. There must be rules and they must be obeyed. To compensate for being new in the market, African countries have been persuaded throughout the years to give extraordinarily generous terms to would-be investors. Unfortunately, we have not received the expected outcomes. Ladies and gentlemen, the clear lesson is that it is better to be rated as an ordinary space where regular profits can be made than to be treated as a place for extraordinary profits because you're rated by would-be investors as dangerous territory. The officials might get extra compensation for traveling to us, but our companies and governments will not get better terms. When people come to Africa to do business, especially when they come to invest, they must know exactly what to expect. They must know that they have come to a continent where there's the rule of law, a police service that can be counted on to deal fairly and speedily with the law and order issues that come up every day. They must know that there's an independent and efficient judiciary that will preside over and resolve the frictions and disputes that come with all human activities. And they must know that they will meet tax agencies that are capable of ensuring meticulous scrutiny over their transactions. If we are to make our countries attractive places for investors and ensure that our citizens benefit from their activities, we need more than accountants. Let us take mining, for example, which is an important industry in Ghana and requires investors with very deep pockets. We in Ghana will start from the premise that we know the investors have come to do business. They have not come to do charity work. We would look out for the investor who cares about our environment. And remember, in all our negotiations, that when the last bit of gold or diamond is taken out, the investor would leave having made a reasonable profit on his investment. The environment that is left behind should still be in satisfactory condition. Ladies and gentlemen, this is something I've said elsewhere, and I'll repeat it here too. I believe the African diaspora has a critical role to play in leading the drive for investment into the continent. Their members have the expertise and would have the empathy to drive change far more quickly and smoothly than other people. We have the example of the Chinese diaspora, which led the investment drive in China some 40 years ago and have helped transform that country's economy in such a dramatic manner. Those of us who live on the continent must, of course, do our part to make it easier to conduct business, and we are doing it. In Ghana, we have embarked on a serious digitization program to reduce the many frustrations that we all face in everyday activities in the country. It might not sound like a big deal to an audience in Oxford, but it is one of the proudest achievements of my administration that I'm able to say we now have digital addresses and you can find your way around the country without having to resort to the proverbial turning left at the blue kiosk. A survey earlier this week cited Ghana as having the fastest internet speed in Africa. That only places at number 79 in the world, but we're working on it and we should keep on improving. It is now much easier to pay taxes and clear goods from the ports as we have systematically removed the spots that have been the historical areas of friction and frustration. Every day brings a deliberate improvement. And there is the matter of credit rating agencies and lenders, adding an African risk premium, which makes it expensive to raise sustainable and competitive long-term capital to support transformation. The matter of the African risk premium, when borrowing from the market, even as the continent provides the highest return on investments obtainable anywhere in the globe, must be addressed. It represents an unfair and illegitimate avenue for the export of capital from the continent. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been going on at some length about the measures we're taking to make it easier to conduct business, to enable us get more revenue, to be able to meet the many development needs of our countries. Unfortunately, it is part of the reality on our continent that there are huge illicit financial outflows. Indeed, in 2015, the highly respected former president of the Republic of South Africa, Thabo Mbeki, as chair of the high-level panel that produced a report on illicit financial flows from Africa, commissioned by the Joint African Union Commission and the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa Conference of African Ministers for Finance, Planning, and Economic Development, revealed that Africa is losing annually more than 50 billion United States dollars through illicit financial outflows. 5 years later, according to UNCTAD's Economic Development in Africa report of 2020, the figure has gone up from 50 billion United States dollars to 88.6 billion United States dollars each year. That is a lot of money in any currency, and it is money we ill afford to forego. It is money that will make a significant addition to the investable funds of the continent. Persons, largely the multinational companies who come to do business in Africa, are undoubtedly involved in these illicit transactions with the complicity of some Africans. We must therefore build robust financial compliance systems and ensure strict enforcement as a deterrent. A strong regulatory environment, whilst reducing these illicit outflows, would in the end lead to more private capital being attracted to the continent for genuine investment. The OECD's new initiative that will require multinationals to pay tax in countries where they have commercial, not jurisdictional presence, is a welcome step in addressing this injustice. The acid test of our friendship with countries which are the hosts of these multinational corporations should be the extent to which they oblige them to comply with this new initiative. I'm glad to note this principle has been publicly accepted by the G7 nations at their recent conference here in England in Cornwall, with a proposal for a 15% minimum tax rate for multinational groups on their revenues from the countries of operation. It is clearly a positive step in the right direction. We in Africa must be both vocal in defense of our interests and vigorous in promoting remedial measures. Ladies and gentlemen, it was a great relief to us in Ghana recently when a Financial Action Task Force, FATF, publication reported on Ghana exiting the FATF gray list as a result of the country's successful efforts in addressing the deficiencies identified during the second round of mutual evaluation. The FATF, and for that matter, the international community, have renewed their confidence in Ghana's anti-money laundering and countering the financing of terrorism regime. Indeed, the Republic of Ghana is proud of the vote of confidence in its financial system. This is probably the point at which I should draw attention to the fact that many of the regulatory requirements put in place are cumbersome and expensive for small countries. For example, the FATF's recommendation 32 requires countries to take measures to prevent terrorists and criminals from using cash couriers to finance their activities and launder their funds. Countries are required to implement a compulsory declaration system requiring everyone crossing a border and transporting currency or bearing negotiable instruments of a value exceeding a certain threshold to declare it to the authorities. To Africa's predominantly cash-based economies, this is a daunting task. You might thus find your country falling foul of the regulations, not because you have done anything wrong, but because you do not have the means to keep up with the paperwork. It would be worthwhile for all stakeholders to agree on efficient, workable measures. And yet, there's not really an option of opting out. A recent report put the cost of financial crime compliance across all financial institutions globally at an all-time high of 180 billion United States dollars for the year 2020. Yes, compliance is indeed very expensive, but at the end of the day, it cannot be compared with the cost of non-compliance, sanctions, the reputational damage, and loss of investors to a country. If Africa is to be an integral part of the financial world, we would have to demonstrate that we can play by the rules, just as the investor community should, and thereby safeguard the future of African investments. Ghana will do her part to realize Africa's manifest destiny. Ghana has led the way in Africa from the Pan-African independence movement, the founding of the Organization of African Unity, and its conversion into the African Union, and as the pillar of stability and beacon of democracy in West Africa. Together, working with the rest of our brothers and sisters on the continent, and with our increasingly educated, skilled, dynamic, and growing youthful population, I'm confident we can help construct a prosperous and self-confident Africa, which will enable her build a progressive civilization that will make its own contribution to the growth of world civilization. In Ghana, our objective is a Ghana beyond aid, and perhaps by extension, we can speak of an Africa beyond aid. And thank you for your attention, and may God bless us all.
Your Excellency, thank you very much indeed. With that, ladies and gentlemen, may I please invite the CEO of Ebii Group back to the podium. Ladies and gentlemen, Adjoa Adjei-Twum.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Excellency, the President. Thank you. I'd like to also acknowledge a few people. So the High Commissioner, you're welcome. Thank you. And also Professor Pollard, who is the vaccine, the inventor of the AstraZeneca vaccine. So we welcome you as well. Thank you. At this stage, we would like to, so first of all, to say thank you to the President of Ghana, Your Excellency, for your Year of the Return initiative and the Beyond the Return initiative. As diasporas, we've been very proud. We are very proud to be Ghanaians and to know that the initiative, the Year of the Return and the Beyond the Return initiative is something that, speaking among our friends and our colleagues, a lot of other African countries are following suit. So on this basis, we have a very beautiful painting, which we have put together to reflect that initiative, to say thank you for, first of all, being a wonderful president, and also for the incredible initiative that inspires us all. I speak for all the diasporas in this room, and there are thousands of them joining us via Zoom as well, so thank you very much. So this is, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. So before we bring the first session to a close, maybe we'll open up for a few Q&A, if I have your permission. Okay. Thank you. I'll stand here. Okay. So I don't know whether we have any questions for His Excellency. Otherwise, we would take a short tea break before the next session starts. All right, so we will take a short tea break until 10 minutes to 12. So we have quite a longer break because we finished a little bit earlier than planned. So we will take the break until 10, quarter to 12 for the next session. Thank you very much. Thank you.